Yeah, I saw episode 1 of it, but not beyond that before I left.
Yeah, I just see the first 2 seasons. I wasn't that impressed with the second season. I really liked the first one.
Oh my god, we have so many suggestions. I am so sorry if you're following us, and I am not reading all of them because there are so many. And of course we are missing a lot of European movies and movies from all over the world, for sure.
It's always a fight with foreign movies because some of them are really good, but then you put on the subtitles if you don't speak the language, and then you find yourself reading the subtitles more than watching the movie.
That's unfortunate.
But it's better than watching it dubbed because it's not the same actors.
Oh god,
and the voices don't.
Oh, and sometimes the voices really don't
dubbing
match.
is just unwatchable.
I will say though, if I watch any like anime or anything, I prefer it dubbed rather than subs. I mean, some people.
Oh, anime, yeah.
Anime, I guess, yeah.
I don't know the people, so it's not like a big
yeah,
deal.
totally.
They do.
Garden
usually...
State. I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
Garden State. An indie gem, apparently.
Yeah, Garden State's the first movie I went to see in theaters when I moved to Rhode Island, and probably lost my car keys in the theater and never got them back. So I had to get rides to class for the next few days while my dad FedExed me the spare set.
Not going to see that movie. I'm going to lose my keys.
Yeah, you don't want to go to the theater to see it, that's for sure.
Spare Parts, robotics movie. The Machinist.
Machinist with
yeah,
that was where
great.
he lost like a crap ton of weight.
Yeah.
It's scary.
And he just put on like a monster amount of weight to do the Dick Cheney movie.
Yeah, he needs to stop doing that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that was prosthetics, but he still needs to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Because he's going to have health, well, I think he already has some health problems from it. Because he basically, to go from the Machinist to Batman.
The Machinist was like frightening, yeah.
And then he went to Batman, he said that he basically ate pizza and ice cream for weeks. I'm like, that's just not good.
Yeah.
V for Vendetta.
That's a good movie.
Vice was actually, I thought it was pretty good.
I like that, yeah. It's good.
The Blues Brothers. The
Actually,
Goonies.
I never saw that.
I've seen parts of it.
The Goonies is a good movie. I like it.
Goonies is fantastic.
It's a classic. The Fifth Element, yes.
I think
I
we
did
watched
like
Goonies out here last year when I was on.
Swiss Family Robinson.
Oh, I love that movie.
Oh, yeah.
That's from my childhood.
Yeah.
Coconut bombs.
Yeah.
The
Hot
Goonies.
Fuzz.
Yeah, that's funny.
Baby Driver.
Baby Driver's a good movie. They did an excellent job pairing the soundtrack to like the pace of the movie. I mean, because that was kind of like their whole point. But no, it's really good.
Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
I haven't seen it, but it sounds funny.
Did you guys watch La La Land?
No.
Yeah, I hated it.
I didn't. I don't know.
Sorry to the viewers. I found it really boring.
It didn't really.
What about The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo?
That's a really good movie.
And
have you read the book?
No, but
I've read all the books.
Oh, you
I don't
did?
know if I've seen all the movies.
Well, there's one American movie, and then there's a bunch of.
So they did
different movies.
They did the trilogy in Sweden,
right?
And then they did the first one with David Fincher, who did like Seven and Fight Club, but then they just did the second movie with a completely different cast and director.
Right.
But the one that David Fincher did is gorgeously shot, like in the.
Yeah, that's the one with Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig, yeah. It's really, really good.
I like that one, yeah.
Fight Club.
Fight Club is awesome.
Very good movie.
Wow, it was a good movie.
You know what I find so amazing about Fight Club is how universal, like everyone says like no spoilers, but how universal everyone agrees like Fight Club is the one movie, like rule number one, and you don't talk about Fight Club. I think that's absolutely spectacular how it's been just generally accepted.
Yeah.
A good movie. If you haven't seen it, watch it. Don't look up anything about it.
And Meatloaf is in it.
And one of Jared Leto's first movies.
Oh, of course, The Godfather.
I
Yes.
haven't seen it. To be
No?
honest, yeah.
Oh God, so good. Especially number one. So good.
But yeah, speaking of Baby Driver, they tie the soundtrack to it. Soundtracks sometimes like truly could make movies.
Oh yeah,
yeah, for sure.
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Or can
Hans
ruin
Zimmer
a movie too.
Is
What?
Hans Zimmer
Yep.
is, I say, arguably the best. I mean, he's one of the most famous because of the movies he's got picked up for. But I was watching something about how he did Interstellar, and I think it was like the director, like, or producer, whoever it was, didn't tell him what it was about, like, per se. Like, he didn't give him a rundown of the film. He just gave him general ideas, and he would write the music based on that. So, like, he didn't write any of that music for the specific scenes, but yet they fit so well, just because he got the feeling, you know?
I love Interstellar.
You know the in Inception, which is the one that Chris Nolan and Zimmer did together before that, or before the Dark Knight Rises. You know that bum bum, like,
Yeah.
So that's actually the Edith Piaf song slowed down like 1,000 times.
Really?
Yeah. And, well, the chords from it, he did that. So it's as if it's the wake up song playing in real time when they're like 3 levels down.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Isn't that like insane?
Yeah.
And it works so well.
slow
And it's so dramatic, yeah.
Yeah,
and
that's...
Yeah, and I only learned that like years later. I didn't know that at the time when I saw it.
No, he's done that. He's done Dark Knight. He's done Interstellar.
Dunkirk.
Oh, that's a great movie. It takes a second for you to realize what's going on.
Yeah.
I didn't
need to
see
see
that
that
one.
again.
Just the story in general of their...
And he did another there's an older one with Batman guy in it, about magicians.
Oh, The Prestige.
Yes.
Also Christopher Nolan.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Ennio Morricone is
But Zimmer didn't do.
amazing
But Zimmer didn't do that
composer.
one.
No. No, I was on Christopher
Yes.
Nolan train.
It's funny when you know an actor from something very specific, so you say, like, the Batman's in it.
Yeah.
It's like when Daniel Radcliffe does anything, and you're like, oh, look, it's Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Clockwork Orange, yes.
Yeah.
Very
That was a
disturbed
very
movie.
Yes.
weird,
I'd say cult
disturbed.
classic.
Bit of the old ultra violence.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a really odd one.
30 Days of Night. I haven't watched that movie.
I think that's like a thriller, with like they're in that part of Alaska where it's dark for a certain period of time just because of the Earth's rotation, and there's like these creatures.
Oh, I haven't watched that one.
Night creatures.
It's kind of like a Alaska version of Pitch Black.
The Illusionist.
Yeah, I heard that was a good one.
I did like it, yeah. Hans Zimmer. That's for the music, right?
Yeah, Hans Zimmer is the what do you call him? The person
Composer?
that writes the soundtrack.
Yeah.
The composer?
Composer, thank you.
It's like Ennio Morricone, yeah.
But yeah, he's absolutely excellent at it.
The Abyss.
The Abyss.
Oh, Abyss.
Oh,
yes.
yeah. So good.
That's kind of like what we're doing, but not even close.
Should have had that one before now. Yes, great.
It's downloaded on the drive. But yeah, that's an old one, but some of the like theories that they touch on are actually things that people have looked into trying, like oxygenated fluid that you can fill your lungs with so that you can't compress at depth.
It's so flat now, right? Nothing.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice.
Let's see. Chris, can you zoom out
On
the screen
Yeah.
to check all the area that we've covered?
Sure.
So
you're
far?
not going to see all of our track.
Oh, okay.
It cuts off at a certain point. But you can see this line that they came across. They checked out 30 and 31 up here. Then we came across and we're going down. But we have covered all of this dotted square with all the targets inside. We've covered between there and where we are now on those lines, and we've done a line south here that's not showing up.
Cool.
And yeah, some of those, not all of those targets are like side scan targets we dropped. Some of those are arbitrary targets that navigators have dropped just for their personal reference.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm thinking about Interstellar just because, like, I mentioned it and, like, I've seen it a couple times now, but it's just such a good movie.
Really good. It looks amazing.
Like, every month I feel like I could rewatch it. There's not many movies that you can do that.
Yeah, I agree. Same, yeah, I've
you
seen
notice
it a few
different
times.
things every time. Yeah.
Have you guys seen the Europa report?
The what?
The Europa report?
No.
Oh, no. I was meant to see that.
I like that one.
Is it good?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you're looking for science-y stuff, I'm a big fan of Gattaca. Have you guys seen it?
No.
I'm not sure.
It wasn't really mainstream, but Gattaca is about a future where it's kind of like this eugenics where people select the best traits of themselves for their kids. No one has natural births anymore.
Oh, maybe I didn't know.
And, you know, so they can make sure it's not like they're not abnormal traits. They all exist within the parents. It's just they select and activate the best ones. So they're the biggest, strongest, whatever they want. Musicians, and the main character was a natural birth. And so, like, from the time of his birth, like, they take his blood, do a test, and say, oh, there's like a 78% chance you're going to die of this by the time you're 40. Like, there's an 80% chance you're going to die of, like, a heart failure by the time you're, like, you know, 45. Like, all this stuff, like, just setting him up for failure. And basically, he always wanted to go to space. They only sent people to space, like, all the, like, best of the best, perfect humans. So he goes about, they DNA test everyone too. So he goes about, they call it a borrowed ladder. He takes someone's DNA, pays for their DNA, pretends to be them, one of the engineered, like, better humans per se, and then tries to hide all of his defects while trying to go to space.
Cool. Yeah, I definitely heard of it, but I haven't seen it. I was thinking when you mentioned it, it was one of these movies. There's a couple of them over the years where people are like on like a long-term space mission. They're like, they go into stasis on some ship and something goes wrong or something.
Oh, is that the, yeah, where they like wake up and there's all the monsters everywhere?
Yeah, there's a couple of those movies.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. There's one with, isn't one like with Harrison Ford?
I don't know.
There's one that I'm thinking, I think.
Yeah, welcome back to our channel. We did go over targets 30 and 31, right, Becca?
Yes.
They were pretty much rocks, or we couldn't see anything else, right?
From observation, yes. I
Yeah,
believe
from
it was
observations.
included rocks.
Yeah.
Which we had figured that from the beginning, because there was nothing around them to suggest that it was a debris field. They just wanted to ground truth some stuff, so understand what the target looked like versus what the actual feature looked like.
Thank you. Some suggestions for good documentaries on nature.
Round Planet.
Round.
Which I've never actually seen.
It's absolutely fantastic. There's only like 8 episodes, but you really gotta see
I
it.
can't believe that's amazing. What a great name.
There's a great film about nature and art called Rivers and Tides. I highly recommend.
Okay.
Cool.
Is it on Netflix or something like that?
I don't know if it's on Netflix. I think I've watched it on YouTube before. Really amazing art.
Cool.
Steven, have you worked on any projects that have made it to something like that? Or like
What do
with
you mean?
groups like that do that kind of thing?
Groups?
I don't know, whoever does like
Nature films?
nature films.
Yeah.
He's just promoting his own movie, Rivers and
Yeah,
Tides.
I filmed it completely myself.
Have you ever heard of Rivers and Tide?
Yeah, I mean, when I was on Atlantis for, with Alvin, and a few months ago, we were doing a show called Blue Planet Live. And that was
cool.
like a live wildlife show. That they had crews like at different spots all over the world.
Cool.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And I got to go in Alvin and interview the engineer. So I've been in Alvin.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah, I remember just going to the aquarium in Woods Hole, and it would just be sitting there and just staring at it, just thinking.
Oh, speaking about movies, Ross, are you here?
Yeah, Russ.
Yes, I am.
So we have been talking about movies, good movies, and suggestions, and someone suggested the China Clipper. Have you watched it?
I'm sorry to say I have not. I mean,
Wow.
I'm aware of it. I should have probably put more information about that in the in like the archival material. But yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it came out in 1936, like just after the first flight of the China Clipper, and people were so captivated by like that incredible feat of flying the entire like Pacific in a passenger plane that Warner Brothers made it into a movie, and it's like a slightly fictionalized account. Like the airline has a different name, something like National Oceanic Airways or something, and then the Juan Tripp is given another name. I think he's like Dave Logan or something, and is played by Pat O'Brien, and then the Ed Music equivalent is played by Humphrey Bogart in one of his early roles. So pretty cool. I I think I probably will try and catch that when we get back.
That's so great.
We did a quick search of breakfast, and you can find it on you can watch it on YouTube. You can rent it for $3.
Oh, nice.
Oh, awesome. Cool, cool, cool.
Yeah, and I understand that the Pan Am really cooperated with the film, and so you see, I think there's some S-42s like Samoan Clipper that are featured, and then the Martin M130, which was what became the actual like China Clipper, though they tended to refer to all of like Pan Am's Pacific planes as China Clippers, but that was the original.
Interesting. And I learned today, talking with Megan, that they were baptized as Clippers because they were like inspired by the ships that at that time were called
they wanted
Clippers.
to call to mind like there's that really romantic era of the late 19th century when these clipper ships, these fast sailing ships with just clouds of canvas would power their way to Asia and load up on tea and spices and silks and fine porcelain, and then bring it back to the West, to Europe, and would race each other to get to market first and get the best prices. But yeah, so that's Pan Am wanted to call to mind things that were familiar and comfortable and that and inspirational to people, to encourage them that this, even though this is a new technology, that it was still something that they could embrace and participate in it, the adventure of it. So yeah, so they dubbed their airplanes Flying Clippers and mimicked a lot of the styles that people were familiar with sea travel. So like the very kind of naval-inspired uniforms with the blue uniforms with the white caps and the gold badges.
That was all inspired by...
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes, exactly.
That's cool. Ross, what was your first experience in doing this type of research?
Wow, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, the first time, I guess, in a way, the first time I ever went, well, not the first time I ever went scuba diving, but I was so, when I was about 12, my family would spend time in the Virgin Islands, and I would hear stories about people would go dive this wreck of RMS Rhone, a steam pack, iron-hulled steam packet that was sunk in a hurricane in like 1867, and I just wanted so desperately to go and see it for myself. And I finally, I think when I was 12 or 13, like my dad relented and let me, take the course and made a couple of dives and then got my chance to go and see a real live shipwreck on the bottom of the ocean. It was incredible. Like I just wanted to do that again and again, to reconnect, with the past in the present.
That's so cool. We have a question about flying boats, and I'm going to pass this to Maddie. I'm gonna have some breakfast, but I would love to keep talking to you, Ross, later on. See you guys. Thanks for following us. I'm gonna let Maddie step in here, and I'll see you in 8 hours. Bye-bye.
Good morning, Control Van family.
Morning.
Good morning.
Family.
Morning.
Control
Family.
The puns have started
oh,
already?
No, sorry, it's way too early for that.
8:01.
Wow. What's the latest? I'm just updating the status here now.
Well, we are back on the western grid that is west of our original search area, and we are headed south along the line. We checked out those targets that looked interesting, and I think they were interesting rocks, and we're back on the search for the Simone Clipper.
I can work with that, thank you.
And we're also anticipating a call anytime now from Dr. James Delgado, who is a senior vice president. He is the senior vice president at Search Incorporated, and works with Mike and with Dee Dee, and was previously the director of maritime heritage for NOAA's Office of National Marine Sanctuaries, and where he was when he invited myself and Lonnie to participate with writing some white papers on suggesting potential targets for exploration in the Eastern Pacific at a workshop that was hosted by Ocean Exploration Trust and NOAA. And here we are 5 years later.
And what a treat it is that we get to hear from him, you know, live from in the control van. It's pretty exciting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so if you all are listening around the world, we have the US, the UK, Canada, Netherlands, Ukraine, Turkey, Sweden, France, Finland, Estonia. Hello. I haven't seen you on the list yet. Germany, Barbados, and Australia. Be sure to send your questions our way, and we'll do our best to get to all of them. It's going to be an exciting morning filled with great historical context and I'm sure stories. All about the Simone Clipper and aviation history and sort of what led us to where we are today.
Well, our communications team is working out the kinks on making a phone call live to the expedition site from all the way from, I believe, New York City. So we should hopefully be hearing from Dr. Delgado very soon. I know he's been diligently trying on his end to call in, and I'm sure they'll work it out. But yes, he is the senior vice president at Search Incorporated, and also can be often be seen on National Geographic's Drain the Oceans. He's a consultant with that fine program, and often appears on camera to provide more context on some of the historic wrecks and sites and natural features that they expose to the light through computer-generated imagery and based on sonar mapping and it's pretty cool. I've seen it seen pretty much every episode except for the ones that are that are airing while we're out here. So.
While we're waiting for everything to get squared away here, our comms team is working on getting Jim Delgado spliced into the line. Super excited to hear from him. We do have a quick question for you, Russ, about flying boats. Do they have the ability to sort of drive around the water long term, or is it just sort of that they have these floating capacities in order to take off and land?
Come in. Oh, another technical difficulty on our end. I was speaking into a muted microphone. So they definitely have the ability to move around. I mean, they would taxi into position, using the power of the engines and taxi for takeoff and after landing, and to move to the mooring and back to the dock. In fact, Pan Am pilots, and flying boat pilots, had to essentially be mariners in addition to being aviators. So it was certainly a bit of a challenge. I mean, for one thing, you don't have any brakes on an aircraft, on the water, and at that time there would have been no reverse thrust. So you have to be pretty confident and pretty precise in what you're doing. I imagine I believe they also would, if they needed to, could tow, the plane if there was, particularly tight, maneuvering areas. And so, but yes, they absolutely could do that. And in fact, sometimes there was an instance where, some fellow pilots and like 2 passengers were forced down somewhere in the Caribbean. And Ed Music went out searching for them and spotted them where their plane had gone down and they were stranded on a small outcropping, and Music sat down in rough seas and took them aboard his own plane, and then it was too rough in order to take off again, to get airborne again, and so he taxied the airplane back into port. Basically used it as a boat rather than a plane.
And flying boats at the time were used in order to sort of get to these harder to reach areas around the world. So we've talked a lot about Pongo Pongo Harbor, which is sort of this tight boot-shaped harbor, and it's a great example of using a flying boat to get into an island that or other, hard to reach area that doesn't have a landing strip, but instead, is covered by water. So flying boats were really used as a way to reach these outer reaches of the world and sort of bring it all connected. Yeah,
and at a time when, flying airfields hadn't really been developed yet, but a lot of places, coastal communities, of course, would already have had developed, port facilities for shipping. So they could kind of piggyback on top of the existing infrastructure there and just travel most of the way by air, and then use the ocean or rivers or lakes as landing fields.
Hey there.
Oh, Jim, we can hear you. Welcome.
Excellent.
Yes, we've missed you. We missed you, brother. We really would love to have had you out here in the field with us, but it's great that you can join us this way.
No, it's really good to be able to join and watch you guys at the same time. The magic and promise of telepresence.
Oh yes. So I've been telling people all along that that this really started with you. So I would love you to tell people about how this all got started with the workshop in 2014.
Well, it's very kind of you to say that it started with me. It actually started with a whole group of people coming together in scientific collaboration. The best way for it all to happen with the planning for Pacific workshops that NOAA was hosting in San Francisco with the Ocean Exploration Trust. And with that, all of these white papers were being presented, and it was fun to be able to have you come out and join that effort and to present. What's been particularly fun is since we've done that, we've seen more than one mission take place that came out of that workshop. But as part of that, what's also happened, and the way I love how this all stitches together, is that as each mission unfolds, others take place around it, everything in sync, so that even though it may take a couple of years to line it all up, one mission after another happens as Nautilus moves along the ocean highway or Okeanos Explorer moves along another. But at the same time that's happening, well, maybe a maritime heritage mission, other science is also taking place. And while I know thus far you guys have charted a fair amount of the seabed off of American Samoa and Samoa itself, and you're seeing some rocks, that's really exciting to the geologists. And we're actually looking at ocean bed in detail in a way that nobody has before. And it's a reminder that sometimes maritime heritage can serve as a beacon for ocean exploration, while ocean exploration in and by itself occasionally gives us an opportunity to connect to our own past or remember people like Ed Music and his crew.
Wow. Well said. Well said. And is it any surprise, Jim, we always enjoy, hearing you speak on these subjects, and I'd love to hear you tell us more. We have two of your colleagues here, Mike and Dee Dee, and you can tell us more about what you do together at Search.
Well, actually, what's really fun, Russ, is that I'm actually seeing all of you because the camera is on in the control shed.
Really?
And there you all are. So I'm waving right now at you and to Dee Dee. And again, I wish I was there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So what we do, the three of us, is we work for Search, and we're the largest cultural resources company in the United States and probably one of the biggest in the world. We work with archaeology, of course, on land and at sea, both in the shallows and in the depths, and recently Dee Dee and I in the delta of the Mobile River and in muddy water, and I see Mike there as well, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit of a delay with the satellite, but
And I know you've worked many times in the past with Ocean Exploration Trust, and would love to hear about some more of those.
Well, some of the great missions we've been able to do with the Ocean Exploration Trust, as well as with NOAA's Office of Ocean Exploration, have taken us to some other depths to look at a range of sites, some in the Gulf of Mexico, including an early 19th century wreck that, when we investigated it and did a little bit of test archaeology, led us to two other wrecks, which has us now suspect that we're seeing some of the first direct archaeological evidence on the seabed of a privateer, which is a fancy government-sanctioned name for somebody else's pirate, probably engaged in the cause of South American independence sometime around 1818 to 1820. We've looked at World War II shipwrecks. We've looked at one in particular, Mike and I working remotely and calling in much like this, but from the University of Rhode Island Exploration Center, where we examined Coast Trader, a ship sunk by a Japanese submarine off the coast of British Columbia and Washington State in 1942, to a project with Megan out in Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, taking a look at the Macon, a Navy dirigible which through a trapeze mechanism would launch biplanes as an aircraft carrier in the air until it crashed into the sea, to a B-29 lost, probably time burning, hit the ocean off Tinian in the Pacific towards the closing months of World War II, to a project off of the Greater Farallones and in the National Marine Sanctuary where you joined us, as well as, with Mike and so many of our other colleagues as we looked at the aircraft carrier USS Independence, the mighty eye, which had a distinguished career in World War II and then was used as an atomic test target at Bikini Atoll in 1946 in the first nuclear tests. Taken back to San Francisco and studied. Independence was scuttled in 1951, and on board Nautilus, sitting right where you are now, you were able to take a look at her for the very first time and share that with a global audience. And therein lies some of the best of it. Because it's one thing to do this as a scientist. It's another thing to do this as an explorer. But as anybody knows, great exploration in good science means you get to come back and tell the story, and even better is to tell it as it happens. For us to do our work and just write a technical report that is published in an academic journal or a book is one thing, but to share it with everybody is the most exciting piece of the pile. It's going to anybody that has an interest, be they a lifelong learner of my generation or somebody just getting started in this. Today I just answered an email from a grandmother whose 6-year-old is fascinated with shipwrecks. And she asked where she could take him in and around San Francisco to take a look. And so I reminded them to tune into this, but also that if she walked out by Land's End, just below the San Francisco Memorial, the engine of the the engine of the tanker Frank Buck still sticks out at low tide from where she went aground in 1937, next to the grave of her sister ship, the Lyman Stewart, which wrecked at the same spot in 1922. So yeah, it's fun, and as I guess anybody can tell from the enthusiasm in my voice, in my 5 decades of doing this, I have yet to lose my enthusiasm.
That was great, and listening to you talk, and when you were describing all those missions and those expeditions, it was really great to hear all those familiar names, running throughout it, and that continuing collaboration, and really reinforces the point you were making earlier about how this is always a team effort.
Well, what I love about it, too, is that as we're working and looking at things and going, oh, look at that. Is that a sextant? That's copper sheath. Or, wow, is that a carronade? The biologists are doing the same thing as they see species, and they're discovering new species. The other folks are looking at the readouts, and they're learning more about that deep ocean environment and reminding us that in many ways what you're embarked upon is not dissimilar to what I grew up watching on television. You're on the Starship Enterprise as the science team, boldly going where none have gone before. You're looking, and as I'm looking at the screen now live, you're looking in an area of inner space on this planet that no human has put eyes on until now. And in this, the data you bring back is going to yield information. You're going to find new life. We'll find evidence of our own civilization, hopefully, with the wreck of Samoan Clipper. And there's so much more. And the fact that you're doing it out in the open with everybody watching and sharing, again, that's the way science should be.
So I know you've been following along, over the past few days as we've been searching for Samoan Clipper, and I wonder, using this miracle of telepresence and the ability to consult with us here now, do you have any advice to us as we go forward?
Keep mowing. You always start with a survey box, and that survey box will expand, and you'll have to look in this direction or that. Samoan Clipper did go down in a certain area, and you guys have done a great job in mapping out where you think it is. That, of course, has variables in it in terms of current and drift and exactly what point off of the land, and things sometimes sink straight down, sometimes they don't. The one thing I found, and it's not very scientific, but it's sort of true, is you inevitably find your target on the last day and the last hour on the last lane as you're making the final turn.
Well, we would certainly take that if if that's what happens. We'd be glad just for the chance to finally find Ed Musick and the crew of Simone Clipper, and that brings me to something that I've been asked a few times here online on the live stream, and something I would like to now ask you is why should we care? What does this matter? These people died 81 years ago. What's the point of going out there and looking for them?
There's a whole range of points, and I think that we could talk about the science. We could talk about checking a box and saying, okay, this is what we now know. This is where it actually sits. But more to the point, it comes back to the fact that a handful of people have known the name of these guys, particularly family members, and those who study aviation history, and those who read aviation history, know of Ed Musick. But in this fast-paced world, as we move on, so many people in the past just simply fade away. They step out of view, and in many ways, the way society works, they're in the rear-view mirror and quickly receding. And yet what archaeology does, and what this kind of work does, is it brings them back in a way so that we can remember them, so that we can celebrate the achievements. And so we can not only say with certainty, here's where they died, but with this in particular, finding Simone Clipper, when you do, is going to once again remind the world about Ed Musick, about Pan Am and the Clippers, about the others who were there with him, and about an age in which people like Ed Musick, day to day, went out and pushed the envelope. They pushed the frontiers of flight. They opened up vast expanses of the world to the rest of us with the pioneering flights of the Clippers and other aircraft. And they also, in doing all of that, not only helped us chart or map new routes. In many ways, it comes back to how they ultimately showed us the full range of our capacity as humans to ever quest, to ever push, to learn, to go beyond the next hill, something that has carried us forward as a species for tens of thousands of years. And while we don't remember every one of those pioneers, every now and then a mission like this does, once again, put them on that stage and say, here they are. This is what they did. And a number of people, myself included, can say, perhaps quietly or not so quietly, thank you.
Wow. And thank you, Jim. That was fantastic. And a really moving tribute to that crew and why we do what we do. I wonder if anyone else here, and some of your colleagues would like to have a word. I know Lonnie and Megan would love to talk to you, but they are in their bunks getting some much needed rest. So Aditi or Mike, do you have anything?
Yeah, hey Jim, I'll just jump in with a quick update. So we did the first about 2 by 2 nautical mile search area in the first couple of days, and which is centered around the position in the accident report. And so now we've added additional lines to the west and to the south, and the reason for that is because we have current information. Well, the swell for the day of the crash in 1938 was headed in a northeastern direction, and debris was found days later to the north and to the east. So we figure that the source of that is somewhere to the southwest. So that's where we've expanded the search, and we have until about just a little after midnight tonight to continue looking. So that's the plan, as you say, to continue mowing the lawn. So that's where we stand. We've mapped probably upwards of 16 to 20 square kilometers, and we keep still looking.
Well, I think people forget how much patience is not only a virtue, it's an essential job skill for this kind of work. And with that, I know there's a number of us who were up in the Northwest Passage hunting for Franklin ships for many years, and I'm proud to say that there's a whole section of seabed with nothing on it that I charted and mapped.
Yeah.
But so too for many others, and ultimately those wrecks were found. That was working in ice-choked seas with rocky reefs that came close to the surface and with glacial action that gave you provocatively shaped forms on the seabed that looked just like a shipwreck. Here, as I'm looking at your sonar data, you've got a pretty uniform seabed with some erratic signatures here and there. It looks like some big rocks, things of that sort. And in the midst of all of that, I think there's going to be Samoan clipper. So you guys, as you well know, are doing it absolutely right, systematically, back and forth. For all of those folks out there who wonder when we talk about mowing, this is exactly the way my dad taught me how to mow the lawn when I was a kid. Lane by lane, back and forth, and crisscross it to make sure you didn't leave any gaps and you didn't have a couple stray blades of grass sticking up. And that's the only way to go. Slow and steady as she goes.
One of the
it was easy, like everything in a week.
One of the benefits that we found of one of the downsides of using Argus is that it doesn't tow along as perfectly in a straight line as some towfish do, but one of the benefits to it is that we're actually able, at this altitude of 15 to 20 meters, we're actually able to see the seabed below us in the blind spot, the nadir, where the sonar doesn't go directly below Argus. So we actually don't think we have much of a blind spot at all because we're able to physically see what the seabed looks like directly underneath. So that's one unique ability that we don't typically have with side scan sonar.
No, I'm looking at the quad screen right now, and I can see down in the water column.
Yep.
Well, this is good. I think this really, not only is this going to be good in terms of taking a look for Samoan clipper, and when you find her, yes, but this is also a good field test for other applications using Argus in this fashion.
Yeah.
For the deep surveys. We got a couple of other wrecks we need to go find.
Well, that sounds good, and in fact, that prompts the next question would be, where else can our viewers, see and hear you and learn more about the work that you're doing?
Well, anybody in the United States this coming Monday night can see not only me, but Dee Marks currently sitting right there next to you on Drain the Oceans, the American Civil War. And with that show, I think people will get a chance to take a good look at what we're doing. Also joining us on that mission are a couple of the other search team, including Dr. Anna Holloway, who talks about the USS Monitor. You'll see our friends Michael Scafuri and others as we drain the site of the the CSS, H.L. Hunley, Confederate submarine, the USS Tecumseh, and bunch more. So yes, so Drain the Oceans, National Geographic Channel, coming up next Monday, and then we'll see. They never tell us exactly which episode's going to come next, probably because of all those inadvertent tweets that keep getting released every time Marvel shoots a new Avengers.
I think you have a book coming out too, don't you, Jim?
Yes, actually. I've got an advanced copy sitting here right in front of me, War at Sea, published by Oxford University Press. Release date is August 1st. I think they're actually starting to ship a few of them now. It's a multi-thousand-year tour of war at sea as traced through shipwrecks and archaeology with a focus not only on more recent, but going all the way back into antiquity and ancient battles, Pharaoh fighting the sea peoples, Romans versus Carthaginians, the Ottomans versus the Holy Roman Empire, and so on and so forth, all the way up to wrecks of the Cold War, with a photo in that book of Russ Matthews and Mike Brennan, Bob Ballard, and a few others as we take a look at the USS Independence. So there you go, Russ, in the index, in the book, photo, a couple of other mentions, along with every other colleague in the work that they're doing out there. I've tried to give folks an over-the-shoulder look at this amazing museum that sits at the bottom of the sea and what it tells us about our own past, and in this case, more than just question of lost ships, and more than a discussion of battles or that part of human nature, but also the stories of heroism, of bravery, of those who have gone out to defend and to fight for their freedom, for their country, and have paid the price and now sleep forever in the deep.
Well, that sounds fantastic. I know I have my copy on pre-order, and I will get it autographed, once it arrives. But Jim, thank you so much for joining us here and in spirit, and for helping guide this project and for helping inspire it, to begin and to bring it to this point. And it's been such a pleasure, collaborating with you and with everyone to bring this story to the world.
Thank you, Russ. Always a pleasure. For all of you out there, Russ is my brother from another mother, and so it's always good to be able to team up. Good luck, everybody. It's great to see you. I'm going to continue to watch as I now shift to a conference call I got to take.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Good to talk to you.
Thanks very much.
Good to hear from you.
John Hill here.
John, all right. Well, we're this is a double header, a double treat. So we just signed off with Dr. James Delgado, and now we are being joined live by aviation historian, author of Pan Am at War, and recently retired as the curator of the aviation at San Francisco, SFO Museum. I'm going to let you explain it better than I did, but and also a fisherman. So now, John, welcome, and please, we know you're here to talk Pan Am, and we are very much looking forward to hearing you share those stories with us.
Great, Russ. Thank you, and hello to ship. Greetings, everybody, from North Fork of Long Island, looking out at Connecticut and parts of Rhode Island here. A nice muggy afternoon.
Excellent.
Yes, I was up until 3 weeks ago with SFO Museum, where we put an aviation museum and library together over the past 20, 25, 30 years. And no surprise that Pan Am was sort of front and center on our efforts there with the glorious flying boat history, particularly the Pacific Division. So we've been watching with great interest mission out there, and love being able to listen to a good portion of what you've been streaming and all the fantastic insights into Simone Clipper in particular, that ship and its importance historically to aviation, and sort of the larger envelope of Pan American Airways in the 1930s and what that was. That's become a bit of a specialty of mine, not just professionally, but also my own pursuits. And Russ mentioned a new book that's out that I co-authored with Mark Vaz, called Pan Am at War, which is sort of a parallel history that looks at air transport as sort of the projection of power and prestige as opposed to actual air power. So it's sort of a surrogate technology way before World War II broke out, and well before the United States was committed to it. Pan American was sort of on the formative front line of air supremacy